Hello everyone, you're watching Sandbox, the show where we dig into the art of video game music. I just want to start things off by saying that this is the first episode of what I hope will be a wonderful show. If you've come here from the introduction video, you already know a little of who I am and what the show's about. But for those of you who are joining me fresh out the gate, my name is May, and I will be your friendly host for today, guiding you through music and narrative. Please get cozy, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Undertale. Easily one of the most popular indie games of all time, redefining storytelling and gaming as a medium. From the genius of the game's writing with Easter eggs galore and multiple pathways to choose from, which actually influence the game's outcome, unlike other Choice Matters games, not naming any names, Telltale. Excuse me. On top of the three main endings, neutral, pacifist, and genocide, the game also has 93 possible branches and combinations. The game consistently provides the player with the opportunity to make their own decisions and carve out their own story without being tethered by first-person dialogue. It is absolutely no wonder that people like me are still talking about this game and finding new things to mention even a decade past its release. And all of that is without even including Deltarune in the discussion. As a side note, I would also like to mention that this will mark the beginning of a series of episodes about Undertale. There is a total of 101 tracks in the game, and thus far too much to include in just one episode. Also, as a warning, I will be dropping spoilers, so please bear that in mind if you wish to experience the game yourself first. Anyway, back to the episode. The game truly manages to capture many sincere moments, but none quite as sincere as when Toriel is introduced. From the first moment we meet her, she is the kind and protective, motherly figure the character needs. After a devious run-in with Flowey, her personality is the perfect juxtaposition, the embodiment of tenderness. Try to picture this. You are an innocent child, whose whole life you've heard rumour and tell of monsters under Mount Ebott. On one curious venture out, you find yourself seeking refuge from a storm. You are cold and wet. Upon finding a cave to take shelter, you notice a large hole. You dare to peer over the edge, but before you can react, the ground gives way underneath you, plunging you into darkness. When you regain consciousness, you find yourself in the underground, an elaborate network of caves and labyrinths. Surrounding you are a number of ornate marble pillars. The area is illuminated by the light from the hole you fell from and some small bioluminescent fungi. You stand up from what appears to be a bed of flowers on a patch of grass. Taking an uncertain look around, you notice you have only one direction to go. After walking for a few minutes through this dimly lit cave, you find an archway carved into the wall, pillars supporting either side. Above the entrance, you see ancient stonework with an unfamiliar symbol of three opposing triangles and a circle with a pair of wings sprouting from it. After pressing forward, you're greeted by a lone flower, sat perfectly in the centre of a small plot of grass. The area is coated in streaks of sunlight from cracks in the surface of the mountain. With an inviting tone and plain smile, the flower opens its mouth and utters the words, "Howdy! I'm Flowey, the flower." The sudden icebreaker startles you. You compose yourself ready to answer before it cuts you off. "You're new to the underground, aren't you?" You find yourself still perplexed. The flower continues, "Someone ought to teach you how things work around here. I guess little old me'll have to do." In front of you emerges a delicate red heart. Flowey explains to you it will grow stronger with love. Small pellets begin emerging from their petals and float swiftly towards it. Upon colliding, you feel a sharp pain in your chest, unlike anything you've ever felt before, as though your whole being had been weakened. You feel yourself barely able to stand, helpless and unable to do anything. More pellets circle your beaten soul. You ask yourself, Could this be the end? Just as the pellets close in, a small ball of fire rushes into Flowey, sending them flying into the darkness. From the shadows emerges an earnest-looking woman, with goat-like horns and soft white fur. She is draped in a purple gown, adorned with the same crest you saw above the archway. She gives you a gentle look. You're hesitant to trust her, but as she speaks, your worries quickly fade. She introduces herself as Toriel, caretaker of the ruins. She leans forward, holding out her hand as she offers to guide you through the catacombs. Your small hand only manages to grasp a couple of her fingers. You feel her warmth as you accompany her. Her soft, curly fur tickles between your fingers. She smells of sweet lavender, and you feel calmness for the first time since the descent. I feel this introduction is such a beautiful moment that goes undiscussed, where we the character have the first moment of safety and acceptance in an unfamiliar world, like a mother coming to the rescue of her child. All of this with the song Fallen Down in the background, providing what I can only feel is a melancholic comfort. There are a few musical points I would like to bring up about this song. Firstly, what instruments are used? Well, there is a piano and a bass. From what I found, the music was made with the Earthbound sound fonts, Mellow Piano and Onnet Bass. The influence of Nintendo's classic Earthbound is something Fox has carried throughout a lot of his music. One of his earlier works was actually an ROM hack of Earthbound for Starmen.net's Halloween Fun Fest in 2008. Anyway, the timbre, or the way the instrument sounds, of Mellow Piano, personally gives me a feeling of being underwater, naturally having a more sorrowful quality. Similarly, the vibe of Onnet Bass, which is introduced in the second section of the song, hums in the background, coming across almost like a tired voice sighing. For harmony and tonality, each phrase follows a chord progression beginning with minor chord 3, major chord 6, major chord 4, and resolving on chord 1. I feel what is very compelling about starting from minor chord 3 is that it shares 2 out of the 3 of the notes that are in chord 1. This gives a feeling of being very close to home, but still unfamiliar. The key of the song, or musical scale that the notes of the song are found in, is a detuned version of D major. Not quite D flat, but halfway between. This gives the song a different sound compared to if it were written in either of those keys. In music, certain keys naturally have a particular quality and emotion to them. Not all of them feel the same despite being either major or minor. C# minor, for example, is often described as one of the most sorrowful keys. Compared to a key like D minor, which can sound melancholic. Perhaps it's because our ears are conditioned to hearing particular tuning systems. These sorts of questions also arise in older music, like from the Baroque period. The tuning used in those days was less standardized and varied from place to place. This created huge questions of how the music was actually intended to sound, and if the way the music is played nowadays is correct by the composer's standards. And it is why, for these reasons, it's important to make note that Toby Fox chose to do this deliberately for this song. In the case of Fallen Down, detuning creates a sound that, while happy, has an uncertain, sadder edge about it. Take a listen to what it sounds like if played firmly in the key of D major. Now let's hear the original. The one in D major feels noticeably happier, sort of hopeful and confident. Compare that with the original, which, while not unhappy, comes across a bit sombre. Then again, perhaps it's only now that I've mentioned it that it's clear. Fallen Down is written in 3/4, meaning 3 crotchet or quarter beats per bar. 3/4 characteristically is used to give the impression of a waltz or dance. It's normally heard best in the lower accompaniment, a sort of pa kind of sound, like in the iconic Garland waltz from Tchaikovsky's The Sleeping Beauty. You feel the strong first beat, followed by 2 weaker beats pulling you into a lilting motion. You can't help but feel like swaying. In Fallen Down, I don't get quite the same pull from the first beat. At the very least, it lacks the clarity of something you could easily waltz to. Also, the lower accompaniment doesn't communicate the pa sensation you would expect. I feel this is signifying a lack of trust and companionship. After all, in a waltz you have to trust your partner isn't going to step on your toes. I think we can all agree that Toriel is the perfect tone setter for this game. And while her name is a play on tutorial, Toriel, her actions in the early stages of the ruins do not put you in a position of learning. It's only when she leaves you alone that the real tutorial begins. And Toby Fox says as much. In an old interview back in 2013 with Melos Hantani, a Tokyo-based music artist and game dev, Fox was asked, "Are there any particular reasons you created Toriel? Such an overly protective, motherly character?" Yes, there are a lot of reasons. Toriel is a parody of tutorial characters. I played Skyward Sword and despised how often Fi would give me the answer to a puzzle. Figured that if someone was that concerned about you, then they wouldn't tell you the answers, they would just do the puzzles and fight all the monsters for you. This is why she literally holds your hand through a segment of the game. Second of all, there really aren't enough mother characters in RPGs. In Pokemon, Mother 2, there's this trope of having mothers be there only to say goodbye to their 10-year-old kid as they go out into the world. They're basically just symbols rather than characters. Even Mother 3's character, Hinua, doesn't really show up that much in the scheme of things. So here is Toriel, a mom that hopefully acts like a mom. She won't let you explore a dangerous world by yourself because she genuinely cares about your well-being. I think, with that in mind, let's re-enter the narrative again. Picture this. You are the first human to come here in a long time. Come, I will guide you through the catacombs. She holds your hand as you walk through the darkness. Pressing on, you pass through another archway, identical to the last. Ancient, mossy stonework towers around you. Ahead of you both lies a bed of red and brown fallen leaves, nestled between 2 opposing staircases. As Toriel continues up the stairs, you stand frozen for a moment. Somehow, amidst the magnitude of the ruined structures and shadows, you find the strength to go on. Heading up the steps, you lock hands with Toriel. You feel safe in her grasp. A door stands before you both. To either side drapes thick, green vines from ceiling to floor, and gloomy windows left shattered. Above the doorway sits a stone plaque with illegible script scrawled across it. You doubt even Toriel knows what it says anymore. As you pass through the door, you find yourself in a smaller, unfurnished room. The floor is tiled with oddly shaped cobblestone. The wall in front of you, a closed entrance, stands regal, marked with the crest of the ruins. A bronze lever sticks out from the wall, and to the left of the door, a stone plaque hangs from the wall. You can faintly read, "Only the fearless may proceed. Brave ones, foolish ones. Both walk not the middle road." "Welcome to your new home, innocent one," Toriel says. Stepping across the cobbles, you hear the shifting of stone. Toriel pulls the lever, and as if like magic, the once locked doors swing open. She gestures you to accompany her. Pushing on, she enlightens you about the ruins, explaining that they are comprised of a series of puzzles which one must solve to move from room to room. Entering the next chamber of the Catacombs, she abruptly stops. "I must attend to some business, and you must stay alone for a while. Please remain here. It is dangerous to explore by yourself." She then hands you a cell phone. "If you have a need for anything, just call." Before leaving, she says, "Be good, alright?" A little while passes. Growing curious and impatient, you decide to follow after her. As though she could tell you had left, the phone starts ringing. "You've not left the room yet, have you?" she says. Before hanging up, she once again implores you to be good. After about half an hour of solving puzzles, you find yourself missing Toriel. You take out the phone and decide to pay her a call. After a few seconds, you hear her pick up. Perhaps it's because you miss home, or that she's so warm and kind, but you find yourself accidentally calling her mom. The call doesn't last much longer, ending with her permission to be called mother. You sense that your words made her very happy. She calls you a few more times after, asking, for no reason whatsoever, your preference between cinnamon and butterscotch, and also not to fill your pockets too much, for you may want the space in future if you find something nice. After a series of puzzles, troubling interactions, and strangely cheering up an introverted ghost with poor self-esteem named Napsterblook, you finally find your way to Toriel's cottage. The grounds here seem to be much better kept. A bare tree sits in front of the building, and there are 2 neat rows of red bushes sat at the face of the house. You see her leaving her house with a worried expression, rushing towards you as soon as she sees you. "How did you get here? Are you hurt? I should not have left you alone for so long. It was irresponsible to try to surprise you like this." You see her eyes widen as she realizes what she just said. "Well, I suppose I cannot hide it any longer." She takes your hand and leads you inside. Now, throughout this segment of the game, the song Ruins plays in the background. This piece is genuinely so cool. It has what I would describe as 2 main sections. The first goes on until about 1 minute and has a very orchestral character. The instrumentation appears to be a mix of piano, strings, a bass, flute, and glockenspiel. It is here also where the main repeated phrase, or ostinato for the piece, is created. The second section sweeps us off our feet, almost completely changing to a chiptune sound font, really capturing the aesthetic we'd expect from a retro-style pixelated game. I think it's helpful to add that chiptune is more of a style rather than an instrument. It originally emerged due to limitations on early 8-bit and 16-bit hardware, specifically found in games consoles, computers, and arcade machines, such as the SNES and Game Boy. These could only produce very simple waveforms. Almost any and all forms of chiptune you hear nowadays are created with synths to emulate that style, whereas you could say the sound chips found in older gaming hardware technically were the original instruments. The beginning of the song establishes multiple simultaneous melodies. In other words, a polyphony of single, short phrases starting from the lower half of the piano and being joined by the upper half. Polyphony, as a textural tool for the music of video games, provides depth to simple melodies, like in Stardew Valley's Overture by Concerned Ape. As for ruins, when the bass, percussion, strings and flute enter, the depth of the piece is taken to something which feels more urgent. The bass plays what sounds like a variation on the lower piano melody, while the flute and strings continue the main melody. The glockenspiel, on the other hand, plays an ornamental role, which I would say helps the piece transition from one part to the next, as it appears when the strings are introduced and when the piece shifts to the second section. Moving on to section 2, the chiptune sound kicks us into a completely different vibe, feeling much more like a retro game. Along with this, the piano accompaniment plays quieter with clashing chords. These clashes provide a transparent texture. In other words, the music has distinct layers. You can think of it like fabric. How easily can you see each strand, rather than say opaque, where it would blend well together? These oddly complement the sharp electronic sounds of the chiptune. Running with this, we could even suggest that this layering of the music expresses a duality in the player character's feelings, perhaps half enjoying the experience like a video game, and half feeling lost and confused. To take this idea a step further, I feel this piece is significant in describing the player character's sense of adventure. Section 1 starts off almost representing the character's melancholy, wandering unfamiliar halls alone, and the inevitable trials and confrontations of the ruins. Whereas, by section 2, I feel like we get the impression of the character actually beginning to enjoy the puzzles and interactions they're having. The next song I would like to talk about is Home. This is the song that plays throughout the time you spend in Toriel's house. It features one of the main recurring themes or leitmotif that crops up throughout the whole soundtrack, first appearing in Once Upon a Time. The melody is easily singable and pleasant on the ears, creating something which sounds very sentimental. This song gives a beautiful feeling of conversation, which is communicated by a nylon string guitar. It has a warm timbre with a hint of echo, allowing for a very calming and nurturing quality. Two voices can be heard talking to each other throughout the whole piece. One represents Toriel, and the other our protagonist. Toriel's voice is personified by the lower pitches of the guitar, while the character's voice is heard in the upper pitches. The song can be split into 3 main sections. Section 1 starts off with a single voice, Toriel's voice. Section 2 introduces our voice, simply echoing the leitmotif of Once Upon a Time. I feel that this is us as the character warming up to Toriel. That said, I don't believe we're the dominant voice yet, as our slower pace contrasts with Toriel's faster rhythms, almost like she has more to tell us. Finally, Section 3. This is where our voice takes centre stage. Toriel's melody becomes much simpler using a slower rhythm, whereas our melody becomes more complex with the addition of passing notes adopting a faster rhythm. The whole song revolves around the home chord, or chord 1 of the key. However, it frequently features the 9th degree of the scale in the melody. Imagine an A major scale. Think of the octave from A3 to A4. The 9th degree in this case would be a B4. By doing this, it creates a feeling of tension and prepares us for the shift to the 5th degree, or dominant, which is E major. This is a fancy process called tonicization, essentially taking the dominant of the key you desire to make a temporary resolution to, without being a complete key change or modulation. Simply put, it creates a new feeling of home in a place different from where we started. We can suggest that just like from a music theory perspective, this tells us that home is also changing for the protagonist. You can also imagine it like this. The original key of A major is the surface. The 9th degree of the scale is Toriel, and the dominant E major is the underground, feeling more like home. Perhaps it's musical foreshadowing. There is one more thing I would like to mention about home, and that is the music box version, played only when the player switches off the lights in their room. This is a fantastic example of why melody and instrumentation matter. Just like the nylon string guitar created a feeling of coziness, the music box elevates it even further to a more intimate, lullaby-like sound meant to lilt the character off to sleep. I like the idea that this track exists as a real music box in the bedroom, placed there by Toriel to comfort our character in the dark of night. Once again, I invite you to picture this. Taking your hand, she leads you inside. "Do you smell that?" she asks. A heavenly smell of fresh pastry, cinnamon, and is that butterscotch? Graces your nose. You can taste the sweetness in the air. "Surprise! It's butterscotch cinnamon pie," she says with a warm smile. You take a deep breath. Your mouth slowly drops and your twinkling eyes open wider, all in disbelief. It's enough to make even your lower eyelids hang heavy from a thin layer of tears. "I thought we might celebrate your arrival. I want you to have a nice time living here." Affectionately booping you on the nose in a swift recoiling action, she chuckles, adding, "So I will hold off on the snail pie for tonight." She again grabs your hand. "Here, I have another surprise for you." She takes you down the hall, stopping abruptly and turns to face you. "This is it." She turns her body to unblock your view, revealing a door. "A room of your own. I hope you like it." Just as though it felt it couldn't get any better, you're once again in pleasant shock. Standing there for a while, she rests her hand on your head, beginning to gently stroke your hair. "Is something burning?" Make yourself at home." She urgently runs off. You enter your room for the first time. It is cutely decorated. A picture of a daisy hangs on the wall. A row of stuffed animals sits up against the bed. There is a chest full of cool toys you've never seen before. That said, it will all have to wait. The day has been long and you feel very tired. You kick off your shoes and lay on the bed. After a little while of staring at the ceiling, your eyelids get heavier and heavier. And before you know it, you drift off to sleep. You wake up to the smell of fresh pastry in the air. The room is darker now, and you hear the sound of a music box playing softly from the shelf. A big slice of pie sits on a plate on the floor. You think of Toriel, and your heart melts a little. But the moment is short-lived. You think of the surface, of home, of your mom, and you can't help but feel deeply sad. Staying here, sadly, isn't an option. You leave and make your way to the living room. When you enter, you see Toriel reading. Putting down her book, she says, "Up already, I see. I want you to know how glad I am to have someone here. There are so many old books I want to share. I want to show you my favourite bug hunting spot. I've also prepared a curriculum for your education. This may come as a surprise to you, but I've always wanted to be a teacher. Actually, perhaps that isn't very surprising. Still, I'm glad to have you living here." She looks at your conflicted expression. "Oh, did you want something? What is it?" You ask her when you can return home. She attempts to deflect the question. This is your home now." Trying to divert your attention, she digresses, talking about the book in her hands and some interesting facts on snails. The pain in your chest grows, and you ask again. She pauses. I have to do something. Stay here. She runs off, but you disobey. Following her down the stairs to a long corridor, you catch up to her. You wish to know how to return home, do you not? Ahead of us lies the end of the ruins, a one-way exit to the rest of the underground. I'm going to destroy it. She walks on through the corridor. Every human that falls down here meets the same fate. They come, they leave, they die. You naive child, if you leave the ruins, they, Asgore, will kill you. I'm only protecting you, do you understand? She tells you to stop following her. Coming to the exit, she says, This is your last chance. You want to leave so badly. There is only one solution to this. Prove yourself. Prove to me you are strong enough to survive. Toriel turns to face you, blocking the way. You try to reason with her, but as though staring right through you, she readies her attack. All you can do is dodge. You refuse to lift even a finger in her direction as she sends attack after attack. What are you doing? Fight me or leave. After a while, you stand still. Her attacks soften, each one missing you. I know you want to go home, but please, go upstairs now. I promise I will take good care of you here. I know we do not have much, but we can have a good life here. Pathetic, is it not? I cannot even save a single child. I understand. You would just be unhappy trapped down here. The ruins are very small once you get used to them. It would not be right for you to grow up in a place like this. My expectations, my loneliness, my fear. For you, my child, I will put them aside. If you truly wish to leave the ruins, I will not stop you. However, when you leave, please do not come back. I hope you understand. She kneels down and hugs you tight. So very tight. You feel a single tear touch your shoulder. Goodbye, my child, she says finally before walking away. Out of the corner of your eye, you see her stop and look at you one last time, before leaving for good. This part of the game always leaves me sad. She just wants what's best for you. She wants you to be safe, but you're left no choice but to reject her love if you wish to return home. Heartache is such a fitting title to a song that plays during our fight with Toriel. This piece is the essence of internal conflict. It starts off strong and stern, like an immovable object, the way the bass synth establishes the ostinato. "10 seconds in, we're hit with the first wave, bringing in strings and percussion. The crashing of cymbals brings the first variation on the melody. The drums in the background juxtapose the tambourine's rhythm, creating almost a breathless sensation for the player. Additionally, you can hear a small melody played on a brass instrument. It's quiet by comparison, but much softer and sentimental sounding, giving the impression of the battle being a facade, as a way for Toriel to keep you safe and dissuade you. There is also a constant, almost atonal electronic sound, which comes across almost like noise or interference. It's subtle, but there. This further gives the feeling of internal conflict, mainly for Toriel, but also partially for the protagonist. After all, this fight isn't intended to harm us. 20 seconds in, we hear a faint voice singing. I believe this is two things: a warning for the second wave to come, and Toriel's soul crying out over the pain she feels attacking her child, knowing that it's all she can do to try to stop you. At around 50 seconds, the rhythm abruptly changes and the melody becomes chordal before the ostinata re-emerges, only this time transposed major. This is a noticeable shift in mood, an ironically happy sound during a painful moment. Following this, a flourish of notes plays 3 times, as though Toriel is trying to ignore the reality that she'll have to let you go. It feels very much like she's trying to shake off the thought. The harmony of the piece 1 minute in switches back and forth from major to minor, and the whole melody changes. It attempts to return for a third wave, but is interrupted by a new variation. This feeling of being cut off happens a few times before the end of the song. Unlike other songs of Toriel's so far, this is the first one where there seems to be some sort of ending, or at least an ending which doesn't seem to open up for the track to be repeated quite so easily, before it's all brought to a close with a percussive swooping sound as all the other instruments stop, literally signifying an end. Structurally, the music has 2 sections. The first lasts for 1 minute. The music is unwavering with little interference, but only from quiet, blocked-out voices. Whereas section 2 reveals the real chinks in Toriel's armour. Underneath her stern, stoic, motherly exterior lies a fragile soul, whose care for the safety and happiness of her child takes priority above even what she knows might hurt them or herself. Now comes perhaps the saddest song so far, Empty House. Interestingly, this song isn't in the soundtrack. According to the Undertale wiki, the first room the protagonist enters at any moment after Toriel is killed plays the song quietly. Any room following this will play the song at an even softer, barely audible volume. Falling asleep on the bed or simply turning off the lamp in the guest room will play the song at a normal volume. The song stops playing after turning on the lamp and will resume playing upon exiting the guest room. Musically, it is a slowed down version of Fallen Down. It's sad and ironic that the music that introduces Toriel is also the music that echoes her death. Yikes. Anyway, there is one last track of Toriel's that I want to mention, which plays at the end. Fallen Down, Reprise. This song is an extended version of what we heard earlier. I think it would be appropriate to say that what was played before was an incomplete song. This track only appears in the pacifist playthrough of the game. As I mentioned before, the time signature for Fallen Down is 3/4, which should usually give the sense of a dance. In Fallen Down Reprise, the time signature changes to 6/8. This gives room for the bass to transform into that pa sensation I spoke about. The entire song's momentum completely changes and is given a feeling of movement and life. The instrumentation has also broadened, adding a flute. While it seems like a small change, I personally feel that it alters the atmosphere of the piece entirely. We exit the solo melancholy piano and instead are joined by a lighter timbre, maybe putting us into the realm of what could be the monster's traditional music. I feel like this could also be interpreted as our character finding a place in the world, like their voice is finally one in the conversation. Lastly, a huge part of this is the use of leitmotif. The same melody found in Once Upon a Time. It is a poetic ending, finishing the game the way it started, but there's something new. The rhythm. The song is less rigid in structure now. It has a relaxation to it and a healthy swing. A change both musically and in the game. Both the time signature, instrumentation, and rhythm signify a change in their society. A togetherness moving forward. Loneliness is gone, and replacing it is love. After all of this, I don't think it would be an easy task to find a character, especially a tutorial character, as influential as Toriel. The music that accompanies when she is on screen and even when she isn't present, being referenced in other tracks, all sets the tone for the whole game going forth. Fox's writing of Toriel, equipped with her music, fantastically opens the door for a sentimental relationship with the character. One that we as the player also feel. You almost wish she were real. Oh my gosh. We are finally at the end of the episode. I, at the time of writing this, have spent the last 3 months doing research, writing, transcribing from ear, and so much more to be able to have made this. I couldn't be happier. I really hope that you've enjoyed, and I can't wait to hear people's ideas, responses, agreements and disagreements, and also corrections in the comments. So, without further ado, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and all of that business. It would mean so much. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.